Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance. Rich, I just wanted to ask you to just level set gamification. I mean, that's a word that's out there so much, but I don't know if people really wrap their arms around, the nuts and bolts of it. So can you do that for us before we even move into a 2.0? Like what's 1.0?
So in the broadest sense, gamification is a descriptor for when you use the tools and techniques of game design to achieve something in another kind of design. So in a learning context, often what that is you'll have a design that uses things like points, badges, leaderboards, that sort of thing, to achieve something. And most of the time, in the context of what I'm calling now gamification 1.0, that's normally for the purpose of things like gaining people's interest and attention. But gamification doesn't exist just in the world of learning. It exists in many other forms and many other areas of design. So learning is just one avenue for that.
Got you. And, I think we all can agree that the gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar Goliath. It's bigger than Hollywood out there. So, I'm sure that's something that you've probably thought about, of how to bring things over the course of the years. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah. There's so many lessons that we can learn from the gaming industry. And I've been designing games for a learning context for about the last 10 years at least, and there's been a lot of interest in how we can employ the systems and tools and techniques of game design into learning for much longer than that even. And what I've seen in those last 10 years is quite, I think, a significant shift from this gamification 1.0, as I call it, to a 2.0 sort of system, where we've moved from, I think, and we've matured in the way that we bring games into learning, because it's not so much anymore about just using things like points and badges, simple gamification tools, to make things more interesting and put a kind of gloss over what is otherwise more traditional learning content. And what we've moved to is, I think, using gamification and game design techniques in a much more meaningful way. It's a way that is more, I think, inspired by real commercial games with an intention of generating specific knowledge or behavioral outcomes.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I think it's important to say 1.0 isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad way of doing gamification at all. It really can be very useful to say, let's take some simple game mechanics, let's take points or badges and put them as a layer over the top of something. And that can be a successful way of making it more interesting. But I think it's really true that we're able to be a bit more sophisticated than that. And we're actually able to look at a lot of different goals. More engagement, more attention, more interest might be one of them. But actually, we can look at the full range of learning outcomes and say, what can we learn from successful commercial games that we could apply to help us make those learning outcomes more effective, help embed them, and really change behavior?
So what's a shining example of what you consider to be a 2.0? Like, what's a good example of the shift between 1.0 and 2.0 that you look at as a benchmark?
Well, for me, I often look back at Duolingo. And the reason I love Duolingo, and I think, and if anybody doesn't know Duolingo, it's a language learning app. It's the reason I love it as a great example of gamification 2.0 is the intentionality with which game design principles are used. So the thing with learning a language is that you have to do it on a regular basis. You have to immerse yourself in that language, every day practically while you're learning it. And Duolingo uses gamification techniques to habitualize language learning. So everything that it does, whether it's using points and badges, whether it's giving you a bonus for logging in day after day, it counts up how many days in a row you've logged in and so on. All of that stuff is designed to make it really easy for people to come back and keep on learning on a regular basis. And that's why I think it's so good. It's being used with a very clear intention to deliver a behavioral outcome.
I really like Duolingo as an example of 2.0 as well, because the mechanics themselves aren't really any different. They're not any more complicated. It is points. It is, just something as simple as logging how many days in a row somebody has been using the app. But it's exactly as Rich says, it's the intention with which it's done completely changes the effect.
Yeah, that is fascinating. That's when you see, teenagers, for example. My daughter has been using it. She fancies studying abroad in Italy at some point. So she's been proactively using it, to see those streaks going of, oh, I've been using it for X amount of days and everything. That is a great example out there in the commercial industry. So the Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.